Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Orange Board of Finance. Today's Monday, October 18th. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:07. I'd like to start by having everyone introduce themselves, beginning on my right.
Kevin Moffett.
PJ Shanley.
John Cifarelli, Finance Director.
Jim Leahy.
Pat Romano.
Kevin Houlihan, thank you. Public dialogue, item number 3. Since there's no one here from the public, we will move on to new business. Item number 4, funding request. A memo from Bob Britton requesting additional funding for the flooding issue. John?
Okay, as I had spoken last month when we did the one for Old Country Road and Coachman's Drive, there was going to be another one coming up for Brookside Drive, Glenbrook Road, and Pine Tree and Peck. So now what we've done is we've combined the two, and the total to do Old Country Road, Coachman's Lane, Derby Milford Road, Glenbrook Road, Brookside Drive, Pine Tree Drive, and Peck Lane is now $83,000 with a $4,000 allowance to attend meetings and such. So Bob is looking for a total of $87,000. What I'd like you to do, last month we did $30,000 out of the capital fund. I'd like you to rescind that vote from the capital fund, and then we'll take this whole $87,000 out of the American Recovery Act funds, that $2 million we have. We've since found out, and they keep changing the rules on it, but right now we believe it to be, we could use that money to cover this. So let's use it for that. If the rules change somewhere down the road, we'll look at it again.
Okay, and the Board of Selectmen obviously unanimously approved this at their meeting.
Yes, I did, last week at their meeting.
John, can I ask you a couple questions? Because
Sure
I
can.
noticed that we have this in our notes from last meeting, so we can kind of build off that when we eventually get around to shifting. So first off, procedurally, you want to two motions, one motion, two.
No,
one
I would
to
make
rescind.
it. I would make it two motions.
So
One
the
to
first one will be
rescind,
to rescind what we did last time.
right.
So why don't I make that motion, since I was the one who made the motion last time, and I think, Kevin, you would have want to second it. But anyway, however we want to do it. And then have the new motion for the $87,000.
Right, for the $87,000 to be
Okay.
taken out of the funds from the American Care Act.
I took the liberty of reading this. And clearly what we're saying is that this is a preliminary design, to use typical engineering terms, and then that's going to lead to more detailed design.
Right.
And in more detailed design, we're going to be coming back for more money to actually perhaps even do more engineering and the construction. So if I got the
Correct,
concepts
correct,
right.
Correct. What this basically does is go out there, figures out what needs to be done. There could be 2 or 3 ways of doing it at each spot. I don't know. They'll look at the flows of the river. They'll look at downflow. Like I said last month,
Yeah.
you can't pour that water all into it and then create a problem downstream. They'll come back then with the different options. The Board of Selectmen will probably review the options with the town engineer, decide which one is best, come up with a price to go to a better design on those options,
Right.
and to prepare bid documents and then to go out to bid. So then we'll have to allocate money for that.
Speaking
and
of going out to
actual
bid, did we go out to
construction.
bid for this particular outfit?
No, because they're professional services.
Okay.
We could negotiate with a company. Cardinal Engineering are the engineers that did the Derby Milford Road Bridge at Grassy Hill Road.
Good.
And they did a very good job over there, so we're happy with them, so we thought we'd continue.
Okay.
They also oversaw, I believe, the latest construction at High Plains Community Center, the wing over there. So I think
Okay.
we're in pretty good shape with them.
Can I just ask us to look at this document just a hair? One of the things that surprised me is they started telling me what their scope of work was, and as soon as I saw that, I felt like I was back at Sikorsky, right? I don't really know anything about the engineering, but I know structure and I know activities, right? And I was very surprised that under section 2 was it felt to me this meet with the town would have been the very first thing they would do. Did you feel that? Or is that what they're actually going to do?
They're going to meet with they may meet with some of the residents when they go out there and take their engineering
Yeah, but
studies
hold
and all.
on a second. Let me tell you why. You see this last sentence? Establish a schedule for the study. Doesn't that feel like, in other words, let me just cut to the chase, right? When I looked at this document, right, and let me just go right to where I just pushed it into the thing I created. I was expecting to see something like this. And all this is on the left-hand side is the sections of what's in this document. And they can put whatever dates they want. And pink only means that's a special week, like Thanksgiving, somewhere around Christmas. I always use pink to kind of identify, and they're always Mondays, right? That's just the way we did it, all right? And here's one that gets mocked up. You can see how this, I just went to show you guys what I'm thinking. This is an example of one, so that as you come back to it over time, you can then, with a line of red, Pat, coming down there on whatever, August 20th of whatever year I pulled this from, all right, you can see where you are and the person where it can report out. I was looking for something that says, and it could be week 1, week 2, week 3. I wanted to understand the interrelationships and how long each of these activities were. And so, because that really helps communicate what's going on with all this technical stuff, which, you know, you and I probably don't know that much about. Maybe we do, but I'll speak for myself. But this would make that something as simple as this, take me, 10 minutes to make, would be real helpful. So when you do meet with them, I just say, just try to get them to say dates and times.
I suspect they have something like this.
I suspect they probably have.
Is your question
Something
the
close to
order
that.
of these? In other words, it's the last sentence, so you were assuming that's the order that it's going to go? If you had seen that last line up front, would that have made you feel better?
Well, think of it. I'll go back now. Since I've showed you that, you got the idea, right?
Yep.
So what I'm really saying is, when I read this, meet with the town, we'll meet with town officials to review key issues and goals of this project, establish criteria, discuss problem areas and potential solutions, and establish a schedule. Isn't that the first thing you do?
I think he's probably already done some of that with them to get to this.
Well, good. Then
Price.
where's the schedule?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
because
wanna-
they're
wanna-
talking about town residents 3 times during this.
One of the
you know.
things I would think, they probably have idea of the schedule, but they're probably not putting it together until we actually sign a contract.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen your schedule coming from a construction background.
Yep.
We put that together
Sure.
as part of the contract.
Yeah, per charge, sure.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
John,
No, go, PJ.
go ahead, finish.
No, that pretty much was what I wanted to say.
I watched the Board of Selectmen meeting, and there was, the initial one where there was many residents concerned about flooding issues. And one of the things I think Jim brought up was, like we were talking about this earlier, if something happens, they correct one area, it makes another area worse. If the scope of this project becomes large, is there any opportunity for us to get any money from the state, or is this?
There may be, but you can't guarantee that.
Okay.
There is, Britain does have something on his desk that you could ask for a grant, much like we did with the Derby Milford Road Bridge, but that'll be a hit or miss, and you can't depend on that until you actually have to have the documents
Sure.
and what you're going to do, and then you ask for
For the grant, okay. Thanks.
So we need a motion first to rescind.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to rescind the motion made back on, I think it was September 20th, Deb. To rescind the motion to use $30,000, and then I'll just read the same, but from the capital fund to hire a consulting engineering firm to perform surveying, hydrology, and hydraulics to size the culverts and to prepare plans for permit applications for bidding and construction for Old Country Road and Coachman's Lane. So I'm rescinding the very motion that I made last time.
There's a motion to rescind. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Pat. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous. Okay. So now we need a motion to appropriate $87,000, John, we're staying with?
Yes, please.
Kev, you want to do that one? Kev? Make the motion?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Since you seconded the last one, and we
Yeah.
doubled the ante up here.
Make a motion to approve $87,000, which will be obtained from, what are we calling that fund, John?
The American Recovery Act?
American Recovery Act to cover the cost of this study, which takes the work that was going to be done on the previous, in the September, and added the new locations listed in the in Mr. Britton's memo.
Is there a second?
I'll second. You second. We'll spread the wealth.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Just a quick question. Is there any wetlands impact on this?
The Brookside Drive, Glenbrook Road area, the houses were built on what today would be considered wetlands, and you wouldn't be able to build there today if those rules
Got
that
it.
we have today are in effect. That's part of the problem
Okay.
over there.
Yeah, so when they come up with their, I think it's on here. Oh, I know, duplicate
Go to
displays.
Item
duplicates on-
5, Amity update. Joe's not here, but Jim, do you have something on that? Or
No, I was just going to mention to Pat as a follow-up. The second last item on their work plan, Pat, it says selection of preferred alternatives, and that will come out in that regard. Okay. Yeah, I got something here, Kev.
All right.
The Amity enrollment for October 1st, 2021 has come out. It was in the documents that I forwarded to you guys, I think it was yesterday at some point. So this is the detail of interest for another slide that will be coming down. Note that grade 12 has 405 or 6, I can't remember, 405 students, okay? So if you know that next year, that certainly is not going to be there, 405, they'll graduate, let's say, right? And so something on the order, likely way less than 405 will be coming in from K, okay? So what you can start to see when you start looking at the category totals, as is shown in the lower left there, is when you start to project out future years, you can start to get a handle on whether, people are going to come in, there'll be more families coming in, some leaving, and all that. But at least with the data you currently have, you can see what will be happening in the future. And that's important because what we got and found out that the enrollment, and this is one of the documents that was in the package, I just copied and pasted one of the pictures. As you can see, what our enrollment is right now is 2166, okay? And you can see that last year at this very same time is 2209. So there's 3 points I want to make from this very data. The first one is the orange enrollment. As you can see, the orange enrollment is going down by 13, all right? It's going from 1104 to 1091. That's blue, that to me is goodness, all right? A good thing, all right? So that's the first item I want to share with you. Now, the reason this is going to become important is that what your October 1st of right now of 2021 in this fiscal year, this ratio of how many students you have becomes the basis of what you have to pay from when we do next year's budget at Amity. All right? The second item, well, first of all, I wanted to mention that this has been the history at Amity, as you can see, pretty much coming down. This is a slide I showed back at January 26th, 21, I believe, or it might have been the February meeting, but this is not an occurrence that's surprising, okay? That the student population has come down from a high of a decade ago of almost 2550. The second thing that I want to remind all of us is that the number of full-time equivalents at the high school, which includes teachers, part-time staff, all of that, has been rising. Okay, and again, this is a slide that I showed and we shared and discussed back a year ago almost. And of course, if those two variables, if you have students coming down and FTEs going up, then the number of students per FTE has clearly been coming down significantly, 16%, as you can see from the high back in the year 2009, 2010, so a decade ago, coming down. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. It's not there so therefore anything, but it's the data. So I wanted to remind us of that now that we're talking about population going down further. The second thing I want us to know and to appreciate is that our share, therefore, because we have, even though our numbers are going down to 1,091 in orange, our share of the total actually went up, right? It's 50.369%, which means it's going up 0.4%, which is, and you can see the equivalent Bethany is going down 24, and so they go down 0.75 of a percentage point. Woodbridge goes down 6, and yet its share goes up by 0.363, as you can see there, percent. And these become large numbers when the impact is a $50 million plus dollar budget. The third and final thing I want to share with all of us and people at home is what the impact means. Now, the only way you can do this at this moment in time is assume you have no difference, no increase in budget. So what is the impact before you get to an increase in a budget, right? And so the increase, and John, you were correct when you mentioned when we talked earlier today, it was 197,941. So we're coming in already with 200,000 more likely from an Amity budgeting perspective that we, Orange Board of Finance, will have to deal with in our budgeting process. Okay? So I just want to make sure. Any questions about this one? Kev, PJ, you good? Okay.
Actually, I do. In looking at the projected, do you see a trend continuing like this?
Well, you can run the numbers right over
Right.
here, and
Yeah,
I
that's
have
what
in prior years. I have in prior years because, for example, if you can see, in orange we got 162. What you have to do is you have to push these numbers forward,
yeah.
right? And so you do it each year, and so it's a big Excel sheet, and the fact that they sent us this in PDF didn't help matters. But we could request the Excel, and I could do the analysis again. I've done it in the past. And in the past, that's when I was, explaining that although at that moment in time we were like 46, 47%, maybe, John, in maybe a decade ago, we were heading to 50%. And,
I think they were
Guess
projected
what?
we were going to be at like 52% at some
I
time in the
remember
next couple of
52
years.
myself. Yeah.
And then it would start to decline again, maybe.
Yeah, but it changes a bit, and we'll have to see. That was a moment in time when you did that,
And
right?
if the litigation against Woodbridge, if they win, you could end up with the country club area having a housing development, and it could change everything.
We'll never know.
Again, yeah.
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 It's
I'm
just-
actually surprised the numbers are going down. When I look around, when you drive around Orange, there's so many more kids now. It's just
Well, there's certainly we see them
more families moving in. And
Certainly more house sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised
all I
at
can
that.
say is that's the data.
My neighborhood,
No.
one of the houses just sold, and it was a retired couple that bought it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see what that, and I don't know who we would get that from, whether it's our tax guys or whatever, just to see, say in the last year, the amount of houses that have turned over. Not necessarily to get into head count and all that, but just total property that was exchanged. New houses, because it seems like every time you drive around, that you see more
Right.
for sale signs, and then a week later they're gone.
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
and there's moving vans in front of the house.
And they go very quickly.
Oh,
the
yeah.
for sale
Oh,
sites,
yeah.
I would have made a bet in that direction, not that I'm a betting man, but I'm a conceptual betting man.
He's trying to fool everybody here.
I'm not.
Oh,
I
you've
don't
never
bet.
placed a bet ever.
Oh, Kentucky Derby maybe, but that's it. I watch TVG all the time. I don't have a betting account. No, I don't. I'm a conceptual bettor. But yeah, I would have the same, but the data's there. In fact, every month we get, I don't know if it's all of us, but I know Kevin's on it. We get the data from Mary Shaw from the Orange Board of Education, and it's pretty stable. I mean, it's gone up, if you go over time.
Right.
But, we've pushed into, like, with mandatory K now, or whatever they call it, I don't know. But the K component has gone up
Sure.
significantly, in pre-K and all of whatever. I'd have to do some analysis. But I do have one more chart, I think. Oh.
Of course you do.
In case any...
There's always one more chart.
Well, Pat, you weren't here. I'm doing this for you. Pat, this is for Pat. Okay. This is, because we're hearing people, taxes and taxes going up, and maybe they should be stable, whatever. We can talk about that. One reason they're going up, not the only one, but this has been happening, and now we have the data at Amity for this past year, 2021, of what the surplus. And I showed this last month, and I'm just going to say it once again since we're talking Amity just briefly. But this is a chart we showed back in February. The average 15-year surplus at Amity, pretty high. It has been accelerating over the years. You can see it in these 4 orange years. As you can see recently, it's been $2.6 million a year. We all know the story, I think. I wrote articles about it. But this past year, 2.991, all right, almost $3 million increase. And since you also had seen the idea of the budget-to-budget increase, what's budget-to-budget is in the blue, very small increases. However, when you do actuals to budget, as you now can see from the data we now have from last year, yeah, they were asking for 1.8%, but from the actuals, what they spent in the prior year to what they got budgeted, it was over 8%. Most entities can do pretty well with an 8% increase from what they actually spent to their increase. So these are the things we've been concerned about, and certainly that would be an item to talk about at some future point. And the only thing I have in the path forward, Kevin, is a couple of calendars that I created for when we get to the talking about the calendar for 2020. So thank you. Any questions?
Is that Amity and Vice Chairman, or do you have another report?
We
You're
combined
done.
them.
We combined them, okay.
We did 2 for 1 here.
All right, so item number 7, discussion and approval of minutes from September 20th, 2021 regular meeting.
Okay. John, you batting lead off again?
Before we start, should Pat and I abstain from voting? And if we do we have enough to vote on it? Because we both weren't here last month.
Does it count if I watch this all day
You see what I'm
today?
saying? So should we?
We should abstain, yeah.
Because we have a quorum, we don't, yeah.
Okay.
So even if we had to, the chairman could actually second the motion. We got that.
Oh, I see what you're saying, John, yeah. So, John.
Could you repeat yourself?
Okay, let's start on page 1 at the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Ready, Deb?
Yeah.
Mr. Cifarelli explained that this item was on capital project list for $150,000 last year. Want to change it to address the flooding issue.
The rest of that sentence you want to take out and just say to
Yeah.
address the flooding
Yeah.
issue. Thank you.
Makes a little more sense.
Okay.
Page 2. Okay, on item 2, there, I'm not sure that's clear the way it's written. They asked for 74,000. They received a grant for 40. So as a real selected items were eliminated from the project to keep the cost at 40. All the work, though, that they requested was bid. You know what I'm trying to say?
So we have bids for the 74.7, John?
We have bids for the 74.7, and then the bid was different alternatives, like the barn door, the windows,
So there was like
the
8
roof.
components of something
Right,
that added
so
to
there might have
74.7?
been 20 components bid.
Right.
And when the bids came back over the 40,000, they eliminated some of those components. So I'm not sure if that,
I think when I read it, I would have played selected items rather than select items, but you could, selected items, sort of like we plucked them. Select items feels like, oh, the good
okay,
ones we didn't
I
do.
could go with that.
I thought it was pretty good, even if you can't, just from a language point of view. Any thoughts on that one from even PJ and Pat? I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I saw that house in Italy. What do you think? Does that read, the English read good or no?
I understand it.
Okay, that's fine.
John continues.
Okay, then under 3, where it says the truck will be auctioned and the expected value of $5,000 will be put into fund balance, I didn't say that, so I have no idea if we could get $5,000.
Well, that was in the memo.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Well, then let's put Mr. Foyer said that then.
The expected value, comma, the expected per Mr. Foyer.
Yeah.
I think the point was there is where does the money go rather than the amount.
just
Why don't we
start it,
strike
Mr.
the 5,000, because we don't know if that's what we're going to get.
Well,
or
I
not.
don't want to, because I didn't say any of that. I don't want to. Why don't we just say at the beginning of Mr. Foyer said the truck?
Would be auctioned off.
Yeah.
And
That's.
Yeah, because he said at best this truck would bring in
Yeah.
5,000.
Yeah.
I kind of doubt that, but
Yeah,
how about this?
he followed
The
it up.
truck will be auctioned. Mr. Sawyer said the truck will be auctioned, and any money would be put into fund balance and keep the money out. Does that satisfy
Yeah.
you, PJ? Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
How about that one, Deb? You got? Okay.
okay. And then the motion by Mr. Nuzzo, it should be not to exceed $40,000 from the capital fund.
Okay. Good catch, John. You're so much better than I am.
Okay. Then under visiting nurses B, Ms. Pimento introduced the finance manager and the CPA that does the government accounting.
Do you have their names? I was thinking
Jim McMahon.
Yeah, I wrote it.
Jim McMahon.
Jim McMahon, and how about the
Finance, Anna Saldemarco.
How do you
Finance.
spell that? How do you spell his last name?
Give her a version
Well,
one.
I'll email it to you tomorrow. How's that?
I think it's Jim McPherson.
McPherson.
Pearson. Okay, thank you. All right, John continues.
Okay, under the next bullet,
Yep.
where it says Mr. Cifarelli mentioned that the American Recovery Act might allocate, we want to change that word from allocate to allow.
Allow. Yep.
And then either the rest was good or I got tired.
Excellent. All right, let's see what I caught, Deb, if anything. I thought these were very, very well done. Okay, we put in the names on page 2, down by B. So let me go back there. Okay, good. You captured that. On item B, the second bullet, the last line, it says the OVNA is making that sentence. They will give us an updated financial report in January. Let's put that updated financial report from the OVNA in our next steps list, wherever we keep that. I think we keep it over on the agenda. So let's put that into the, whether we call it old business or the path forward or items coming. It's not just necessarily old business. I changed that title, but it could be old business / things we want to keep track of or next steps, because I'd want to remember that type of thing. And John, I agree on page 4 and 5. I found nothing, so thank you.
My only change is just instead of saying patient count, say patient census.
Where are we on this
On
document?
the increase their patient count, last line on second bullet on OVNA,
Increase their
patient census.
patient census, okay. That's the term.
And I just wanted to comment after watching this today that I thought it was an excellent presentation and a great meeting, and you asked all the right questions. And
Well, I wouldn't have asked as many as you who have the inside knowledge of it.
No, it was.
But I
was-
asked the type of questions that came to my mind.
It was very informative. It was quite good, and I actually enjoyed watching it.
Good.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve as amended?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain,
Abstain.
abstentions? Thank you.
Okay. I went online, in case you don't have one,
All right, item 8, to review and approve regular meeting dates for 2022.
1, 2, 3 across the table.
Now, I argued with John about this, because every year since I've been sitting here, I always postpone this until after the election, so we table it, but it's
Okay.
up to everybody at the table what they want to do.
I think that's the right answer, Kevin.
I think it is.
So we still
too.
have it, it's on the schedule.
What I wanted to do was get some obvious, oh, that date doesn't work for anybody, and, that kind of thing. But, so I have it here, and I can put it up on the wall here.
Yeah, I think
Right.
since we have it here, if there's any dates, that's a problem with anybody. So
Well, let me
next
take a
month
look
we
at what
just
we got
come
for
in.
dates. I didn't even look at the actual.
I would say February 4th will probably be our all-day meeting date, if you want to lock that in.
Okay.
And,
Now, remember, we always have a crunch with Amity, right? And we always, whoever is on the board at that moment in time, last year we did it on January 4th. We started the discussion, Kevin, in December meeting, which likely last year was the third Monday, about what this board feels we would support as a conceptual budget that we would support for the Amity school system, right? And we found it beneficial to get that out there early. There's that. So on this list, John, we do not have when the either Amity comes in and presents their budget, or when the OPOE comes in and presents
No,
their budget. But
we never have
the
that.
crunch
Sure.
comes with
What
Amity.
happened last year is Terry Loomis contacted, I think, me and you, when
Yeah.
she asked to be on our January agenda, I think it was, and we took it as part of our January meeting last
Was
year.
it that early?
Yeah, it was early.
I can find out.
So it had to be Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
definitely
it probably was, that's right.
Definitely Zoom.
And then
Oh, wait a
I
minute,
think,
no, this is 21, right?
Because we didn't meet in person until later that budget season at the Board of Ed
yeah,
offices.
right.
Okay, I've got one on January 25th. Sound right?
That was probably our meeting, because it's, January's the fourth Monday because of the holiday, usually January and February.
Okay, Houlihan note to Amity, I don't even know what that is. Here's our meeting that we had, that we talk about the discussion with Amity, and come up with our proposed, what we would support. Amity.
Punch that
Racebrook.
one out, that's
Let me
probably
see,
it.
Amity charts, Excel,
No.
Amity materials,
It
no.
would be the agenda for that meeting.
Amity presentation, yeah, here it is, the superintendent's presentation. Oh, thank you, Kevin, that's obviously the way to go.
Yeah,
I
Zoom
didn't
meeting.
think of it that way. Yeah. Amity update.
Oh, that's when they came,
budget.
number 3.
Yeah,
Right at the top.
yeah. Okay. All right, so that's when they came last time, okay. So we're going back now to thoughts on, whoops, sorry, guys. The meeting schedule. What I worry about is Amity in its bylaws for the Amity Finance Committee, have in the bylaws, even though a decade ago they were, quote, violating the bylaws by a couple of weeks, it says that the Amity Finance Committee has to have made its decision on what they want to budget for an increase by the end of February. And then by like mid-March, it might be the 15th, but it's kind of mid-March-ish, the Amity Board of Education has to approve whatever they're going to approve for a budget. All right, so the crunch really comes in that by only having a meeting in January, like the 24th, and having no meeting, us scheduled, and Kevin, maybe we can do other schedules, but it looks like we're deciding that the 21st of February is not a good date because that's the third.
This schedule that I think we
Yeah.
already agreed to table doesn't have the all-day meeting and has no budget workshops. This is just a formal calendar of the year. Has nothing to do with any other meetings we
Okay,
may or
but
may not use.
but why do we pick the fourth Monday in February
It's a holiday.
Because there's a
for the
holiday on the third.
Monday.
Yeah,
for 21st?
yeah.
Right.
So when we get to discussing and approving this list, Kevin, that would be the time to.
No, this is the formal schedule for the monthly meetings. Budget hearings, budget meetings, and workshops aren't part of this, and they never will be. This
Those
is
are
our
all
regular
special
monthly meeting.
meetings.
Those are all special meetings. They
Okay.
do not go on here.
So we're.
They've never gone on
I
here.
understand that. So what says that, and again, we're not approving it tonight, what says that when we have a President's Day on the third Monday, which probably happens a lot, I think, in
Happens every
February,
year.
Always.
Yeah,
that we don't do it on Tuesday?
For one, you won't have this room on Tuesday.
And I'm only saying it because we usually are in a big crunch at the end of February with Amity in terms of their budget because of what the reasons they're trying to get to the end of February, as I mentioned earlier. That's the only reason I mentioned it.
It's up to you guys when you want to have it, but it's got to fit also in this room on Tuesdays or plan and
zoning.
zoning in wetlands, so you won't have this room.
So there's limitations
You may
on
not,
how
right,
much you-
you may not have.
And we've never had a
OGAT.
problem adding special meetings
No.
when needed, so.
no, we've even met in that room.
Right. That was
Okay.
cozy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So looking at this, we typically don't have our April meeting either, right? So, but
Right.
No.
we should have it, right?
No, it doesn't go on here. This is only our regular meetings.
Yeah, that's
But-
for the schedule, and they can, and we've had meetings scheduled that ended up being canceled
Sure.
for.
You're right, we don't usually
We
have
don't
April
usually
meeting because
have
that's
April.
that's the week that
Oh,
we
the April,
usually
I
have
thought you were
the
talking about the
budget
April
hearing.
budget hearing meeting.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the budget hearing would be probably the 21st. It's usually a Thursday or a Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah, so the 18th.
As long as it's not on
Right.
anybody's anniversary, I've learned.
I'll
or
be
all
back
white
hitting you
folks.
probably in
holidays, like
January
St.
to
Patrick's Day or
finalize
anything
those
like that.
dates, because then we need to do it with the Board of Selectmen for the
So
town
this is the
hearing and all
21st
that.
of February is before Thanksgiving and 19th. Okay.
Spent a lot of time on something we're gonna ultimately, is there a motion to table?
I'll move to table it because I'm not putting this in my calendar. I'm too superstitious.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those
Aye,
abstaining?
good.
Tabled till November. Okay, number 9, to review revenue and cost reports for September 2021. Where do you want to start, John?
Why don't you guys tell me if you have any questions, and I'll,
The only
Answer.
thing, because it's so early, my
Yeah.
only concern is on the expense side.
Well, we're doing expenses or we're doing revenues?
John asked if we had any questions, so
Oh, okay,
I'm jumping
well-
right, is police overtime being at 41% already.
yes.
Yeah, I saw that too.
He's complaining about that. He's put an officer in the statewide narcotics task force, and he's doing a lot of overtime because he's hit on a case. Now, we're gonna get reimbursed for it, but the reimbursement goes into revenue. It doesn't go into offset into the overtime account, so he's worried about overspending the overtime account. By the guidelines for government accounting, revenue's supposed to be revenue. It's not supposed to go into an expense account to offset it. So at some point in time, we're gonna see a miscellaneous income. He's gonna get reimbursed for that time, but he's probably gonna go over in his budget.
Oh,
Some-
absolutely.
Yeah, something like we did last year with the Board of Health, with them working overtime, and they got a grant for some extra money for
Yeah,
their
with Dr.
salaries.
Muhammad, yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing now,
So this isn't as bad as it looks
No,
because of that program.
right.
So he's going to be okay in total. It's just going to show up in two different places.
We think so.
So,
I didn't know if they had people out or, would,
We did
Illness.
have last Wednesday night, and you're gonna see it in the new budget, we retired 2 police officers on the disability. So the town is on the hook for 50% of their regular salary. So you're gonna see a new line item in the budget in benefits where those 2 officers' salaries are gonna go in. And we're probably, for both of them, we're probably talking about close to $100,000
once or ongoing for a certain period?
ongoing. And they get a 2% COLA a year increase,
For how long? Life?
life, along with free medical benefits for life.
We're paying for that too.
We're paying for all of that.
We're paying for all of it.
These are the first 2 since I've been here, and they're the first 2 that are under the defined contribution plan, instead of under the defined benefit plan.
So these are retirees because of disability?
They're retirees because of disability. One was the officer that was run over on Marshall Road that night, remember, about 2 years ago. And it was another officer that hurt his shoulder in the line of duty. And we had independent doctors review both cases, and both cases our doctors that we sent them to said they were unfit to carry out their duties anymore.
It's terrible.
Yeah, well, yeah.
John, I got one here. It's in page 17, team. Since we're in expenses, I'll just flip to that for a second. On park and rec maintenance. So we have $60,000 there, and it seems a lot of it's been used already 3.5 months into the calendar year. So I'm looking at percentages in the 28 to 30 range, and when things are at 59 point whatever from 9, I ask, and it's a big number. What's going on there? Do you happen to know?
Well, those are the 3 people that cut the grass from about April and then do leaves right through November. They usually get knocked off for December, January, February, March, except when it snows. They may be called back to do some shoveling, and then they'll be back in April again to end this budget year, April through June. Part of the problem is I spoke to it, I think, last month. The minimum wage is going up,
Right.
and that's probably part of the problem there.
Okay. Well,
You're gonna
I'm
see-
giving you, what I see. And
Yeah,
if it-
you're going to see when we do the budgeting, in
Yeah.
a lot of these categories where we have non-union people
Right.
here, the pool, we're going to have to raise some of those rates significantly. It's starting to catch up with us. From, I think we started at $10, and it's going to be 15 by next June 1st of 2022.
Thank you. And on the first page, under the assessor there, so we have 40,000 data processing, and we've used up 3/4 of it. Does that have to do with the upcoming reval?
No, that's just his equipment and his contract for his equipment. That's usually paid in July
So it's one
at
of
the
these things
beginning
more
of the year.
upfront.
Yes.
It's kind of like the IT account, it's a lot of it's, but the good news is we got the equipment in. Why wait till the
Right.
middle of the year? Let's get a full year's worth
Right.
of the equipment. Okay.
A lot of, you'll see, the assessor and the tax collector, a lot of their contracts for their software come due in July.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I have a similar question on, now I have to find it, on vehicle maintenance, the
love
salary
those.
mechanics, page 14.
14, thank you.
14, okay,
Yeah.
that's a good one. We used to have 2 mechanics and 1 supervisor over there for 3 people. 1 person retired. We hired a new person after about 4 months. That person worked for just slightly less than a year and then left us. So we're down to 1 mechanic. We hired a 2nd mechanic. He hasn't been hired as a shop foreman, though.
Okay.
So he's working in the mechanic line. So if you look down a couple of
Yeah,
lines, you'll
I
see
saw
the
that.
shop foreman is still at zero expense.
I saw that, yeah.
And that's why they keep the overall at 28% on
Yeah.
that category.
The new mechanic that we hired, he may move into the shop foreman position, but that's not a certainty yet.
Okay.
How about, since we're on this page, under refuse, the solid waste disposal,
Solid.
Yeah.
94%?
Yeah, all of them are in the
Yeah,
90%.
that's because we have the money encumbered.
Okay.
In the Public Works Department, Sylvie, like, she knows what the contract amounts are, so she likes to encumber it to
Okay.
make sure it doesn't disappear into another line item.
I was going to ask you why you encumber certain things and not others.
When we know pretty much the prices on a lot of it,
Yeah.
I do it on the insurances also.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
They do a lot more of it over on Board of Ed.
I know when I worked for the state of New York, we almost encumbered everything because it just worked better for us to work off the encumbrance than work off the budget.
It,
Yeah.
it would if we had a purchasing department here
Yeah.
where everything was centrally located.
Right,
But
got it.
everybody department buys through their own, so it's a little more difficult to do that.
I have some questions in the revenue, but I don't want to be flipping back and forth, so why don't we exhaust our expenses? I propose that.
Just one more, just on utilities and
Page.
oil. Well, just in general, I'm looking at page 15, just under the Clark Building expenses, but I'm just thinking about all the oil, all the gas.
Yeah, we haven't really
It's going to be so
started.
much higher this, winter.
Well,
But
it's
we
not,
locked in at a
it's
good
not in
rate.
this, it's not for us this year, because
Next
we
year.
locked in last December when oil and gas was at its lowest. I think we're paying $1.75 for oil, and we're paying $2 for gas. So
Okay.
we're in good shape. It's gonna be when we go.
Can we fill
go-
up at the town?
I'm in.
It's gonna be, we go out to bid in December
Oh, it's
for
gonna be
that, so
horrible.
we're gonna get killed in
Yeah,
December.
it's going to be crazy. Okay.
But what I'll do is, chances are we'll have money saved at the end of the year. I'll encumber that so we could use it in the next year's budget to cover that.
It's this December, because that's when they're, December, January, February, they're probably looking at the worst
Good.
prices we've had in over a decade.
Others for expenses?
I'm good.
Okay, let's check out the revenue report. But we're in good, by the way, in the aggregate, I think everybody who might be watching on TV, they're just seeing, us here. Given where we stand in terms of the overall, at 40.2%, even though we should be at 28 to 30 in terms of the calendar year, 3.5 months out of 12. When you throw in the amount from debt, the things we pay off early, the things we encumber, and Amity has already 40% of its money for the year, we're in pretty good shape, I think, here already. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, on the revenue side, I got a couple of things asking for you, John. Let me just locate them. When you look at our big hitters, which is on page 2, I think, well, one, I have a nit question, but if I'm looking at this right, I'm seeing 53, 58, and 94 for our big hitters, right? These are the major revenue components. So how do you feel about those, John, those three? They're above 50% or in the vehicle?
I mean, I think we're in pretty good shape there. I was actually pretty happy with the motor vehicle one,
Yeah.
almost 95%, and we do run refunds out of that account for town residents that get billed for taxes that
By the way,
they
thank you for
sold their
doing the
cars
process
and all.
improvement of putting both the credit card,
yeah.
and so we don't
Oh,
have to
that
add
was-
the two together
And that
on
was
an
Art
Excel
that
sheet.
did that. That was Art that did that, so
Good.
we need to give Art credit for that.
Can you educate us on supplemental motor vehicle? It's almost at zero.
Those bills don't go out until the end of December. They're due January 1.
Roger
They're
that.
for people that register cars after October 1st,
October
I
1st
think it is.
of last year.
Thank
yeah.
you.
In the past years, it's been about $500,000, $600,000 in motor vehicles. Our big problem is in the
There's no new
first.
cars out there, so we're not going to get that number this year.
Our big problem is
That's
the
gonna be-
first
that'd be a
selectmen's
shortfall.
talked about it. We got Amazon running all these vans
Just
out of
gonna ask
town,
you
and
that
they're all-
question, yeah.
They're all out of state, or most of their vans are all out of state. So
Yeah.
we're
I'm seeing a
losing-
lot of them now with Connecticut plates on it, though.
Are you?
Yeah, more and more,
maybe
more and
they're-
more. Before we had talked about this before.
Yeah.
Where we were saying that they were all the Maryland or Michigan or whatever, but now I'm seeing more and more Connecticut registrations
Oh, that's
on the
good,
cars. So at least they're starting.
So,
Good.
North
I know.
Haven, North Haven has this facility,
Yep.
right?
They have
'cause
a
they
big
they have
warehouse,
the same issues out there,
a
too.
1,000,000 square foot warehouse out in North Haven.
It's the
and,
old Pat Whitney, I think.
That's right.
yeah, the property there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got to keep an eye and make sure that they're registering them.
John, conveyance fee. We're 28 to 30%, and I'm just noticing 40%. Is that something that suggests we're ahead of the 28 or 30% that would be by calendar,
What
or is
that
that a
is-
concern from your point of view?
What that is every time somebody sells a piece of property in town, we get a little piece of
Oh, so we're ahead of
the
schedule
thing.
because of the-
So
Yep.
it all depends on the property. We could sell some big properties on the post road that get us $50,000, $60,000 at a
Okay.
time.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And I
I
think
s-
there were a couple that transferred over the summer over there.
I see we have more marriages than we expected in town.
Well, that item is 466 worth.
And we should be getting our Amity money, I would think, pretty soon.
Yeah, January is usually when they do that, and whatever it is, it is. Now, the refuse charges on the next page, cell towers right on schedule at 30% on page 3. But the refuse one is on page 4. How do you read that, John, at only less than 20% when we have an expectation of 180? Is that means down the dump we're not getting as much money that
Yeah,
we thought?
we talked about that last year. Pretty much the recycling is in the toilet for getting money. I think the only place where we're making any money is on our cardboard, it looks like right
Mm-hmm.
now. Everything else is pretty much dead.
So even though it's a pain for us to be bringing cardboard and folding it
All
up
the-
and all that, we're already ahead of schedule. We budgeted 2, we're already at 37, right? And so, when we're only 3.5 months in.
If you remember last year, I told you the household recycling, we're paying another fee now to dump it because nobody takes the recycling anymore.
Okay.
The metals also, we do get a little money on, but that market's up and down too.
Okay. And again, in the overall, it seems like we're at 52.9%, which would be good, although we got the bulk of our money, as we mentioned, out of the first tax thing that went around. And we have yet to get the money from the state, the step.
There's
grant.
one thing I should point to on page 5, under Director of Health.
Yep, that's it.
That's
0.
Dr. Mohammed. He got another grant from the state for him and Brian. So that's the money that's coming in, and that's supposed to go over 18 months. So if you look in their salary accounts, at some point in time, they're going to be over budget, and it's going to be because of
this money.
extra money they get.
Good catch, thank you.
So this 31.5 is over 18 months, or this
Over
is this
18
year's?
months,
Okay.
yeah. Part of this year, part of the next year.
So it seems we're in reasonable shape on the revenue.
I just got a question on page 1, John.
Yeah.
Is that on the very first two, the pilot, college, and whatever that would say, if it printed versus the water company pilot, are we really 90 over in that area?
If you remember, when the legislature met, New Haven was moaning and groaning about their pilot and how they don't get enough money because of Yale and all, and they redid the formula. And to make everybody happy, even the small towns like us got a little bit more.
Well, we
And
should, because UNH is not paying taxes.
Yeah, but we're supposed to get money for them for that.
Right.
So we got more money. I'm not sure how long it's going to last. That was
So that's a
this
real
year.
overage right there.
That's the overage, yes.
And then the water company will eventually
Right.
catch up
Yeah,
and we'll be
that's
close.
that's a 2 payment on the
Okay.
water company.
Okay, well, that's good news.
Looks like we actually might get a little more than what we budgeted on the water company. And then if you want to move into old business, I could give you an update on IECS.
I can't even pronounce that. Get up. All right, so old business,
Okay.
tropical storm.
FEMA?
Okay. We got an email late this afternoon from FEMA.
Oh,
From FEMA.
let
and
me go
they-
back to last week's,
and
last
they-
month's date.
And they said, basically, I'll give you the short view. They break their components into A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. So our component E, B, and E, we asked for $51,378. They're going to reimburse us $38,533.
What's that, about 75%?
75%. They're reimbursing us 75%. Now,
Now, how does that connect to this sheet that we've been looking at here, John, for a while? This is the one from last month, so,
some of that cost may be on there, not all of it.
okay.
Some of it, I think it was
Because we had
small.
179, you can see the 179 over in the corner there, right?
A small portion, I think, was some school costs that I don't believe the treasurer is going to give them back the money because it was in last year's year end.
So what
the
was the
money would
total of
really
which we got
flow back to
75%
us.
again?
51,378.
51,378. So is that a subset? Is that a list? Is that some kind of list of the, a subset of this list?
It might be one or two of those. It's not most of them.
Okay.
If I continue, in category A, debris removal, which is most of that,
Yep.
we've asked for $321,410.
We do.
And we're waiting to see what they're going to give us on that. And we're hoping to get 75% of that,
Where is the 371? 179 plus labor?
plus the labor. Remember, we talked about the labor
All
that
right.
we were captured.
Okay.
They also gave us, and to me it doesn't make sense, but
It's government.
Britton was telling me about it. We have generators here. So the generators ran when we were out power. So we asked for a reimbursement on the diesel we used for the generators. They give you instead a flat rate for what it would cost to rent the generators.
Which is better.
Better.
Right.
So we said, okay, thank you, and we put in for
Just
that.
going to go by
for
if
the
those are your
hours.
rules. Yeah.
Don't want to break the rules.
$1,000 hammer at NASA to pay for a cost of a generator instead of the oil.
You know?
I mean, some of their stuff was absolutely crazy, and it was a good thing that Donnie and Bob had gone through this before, where roads were closed because trees were down
Yeah.
and stuff. Donnie had to take pictures, and with the pictures, he needed the longitude and latitude of where it was, and that all had to be turned into FEMA. It just kind of blows your mind, but
Because they're watching us all the time.
And they're looking for a way to
they can
disqualify you, so if
Yeah.
he did that, that's
I
fantastic.
think, when you take Apple, cell phone photos, it has the longitude.
I guess you could turn it on or something on your phone. I don't know.
That's scary.
So basically, that's good news. They seem to be reimbursing at a 75% rate. And so at 300,000, whatever that is, that must be 300,000 plus that other 52 or whatever that was. So 75%, that's going to be 225, right?
yeah, plus
Yeah.
what we got.
Yeah.
So we're talking about $260,000.
Plus, if they give us an hourly generator rate instead of the reimbursement on the fuel, that's
Yep.
going to make that overall 75, maybe 78, maybe 80, I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
Just going to follow the rules, that's all we're going to do.
Okay.
But they do have other things, like under the CARE Act, we were given $97,000 in December, and we were basically told we weren't going to have to back it up. Well, 3 weeks ago, we got a notice from the state that they want it backed up now. So now we're scrambling to put stuff together. Our due date is Friday, so we're working on that.
Sounds like stories you have told me about doing accounting in the last 18 months. Version
Oh, yeah.
29?
Yeah.
Coming from
SBA version 34. Keep changing things.
Oh, God.
All right.
We all good on that other old business? How about whatever else we got here?
Hey, we're waiting on Mr. Shanley.
Yeah, were we?
Yeah, before I do that, I just want to thank everybody for the calls and the texts and the emails from a dad passage. Meant a lot, so thank you. On that, make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second by Pat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:09.
Wow, this may be
right.
a record.